So
all right, everybody, welcome to One on One. Today we have a very special guest. Today we have Brad Linzy, otherwise known as the Guitologist. Is that right?
That's correct.
Right, because every time if I mention your name to people, they're like, "Oh, I thought it was the guitarologist." I'm like,
You better
"No,
get that correct, Dave. You better get that correct.
exactly. It's the Guitologist, everybody. He also likes DR strings. We didn't know that about him till today. We see that up there.
Oh, yeah. Actually, those were sent to me for free. I do like their strings, though. They are pretty good.
Very good.
I thought, see, if somebody's going to send me something for free, that's why you'll see most of my videos, like where you can see the background. You'll see, you'll see little things that people have sent me in little bits. It's kind of like a hidden where people can kind of search for what they sent, So.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Like, who sent the lunchbox? That's what I want to know.
Is that
Scooby-Doo?
No, this one's Dukes of Hazzard. I've had that one since I was a kid.
That's awesome.
That was my actual lunchbox when I was in grade school.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And this other one is Star Wars. That's like a cheap knockoff
repro.
Right.
Like a redo.
Yeah. But I got it because I was actually thinking about putting an amp into it, because I'll like steal little amps. If you haven't seen my channel, sometimes I'll steal little amps from radios and things like that and redo them. I haven't been doing that so much lately because I haven't had time. But sometimes, probably sometime in the future, I'll build a little amp or something in that Star Wars one.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And it looks like Warmouth or someone sent you a guitar neck back there. That I know that packaging, that triangle thing is usually a guitar neck.
No, that's actually grill cloth. Grill cloth for I forget what that was too, like an Ampeg. Because Ampeg's like a really special thing. Like if you're looking for old vintage Ampeg, you have to order it from an Ampeg specialist. Otherwise, because they had some it's real specific stuff.
Okay, so let me just start off saying, so I started watching YouTube videos kind of regularly when I came back to the Boston area, and all of a sudden I start seeing this guy Brad, the Guitologist, and he's working on amplifiers, and I'm like, wow, this guy knows a lot about amps. I don't know anything about amps, but I was fascinated to watch. Here's an amp that's not working, and at the end of the video, or the end of the series of videos, here's an amp that's working.
Most of the time.
Yeah, but just the going through it, and you were meticulous about it, and I was like, wow, I'm learning something here. This is a great channel. And of course, you've expanded your channel into you doing commentaries on the business, and it's all good. It's all entertaining. I'm very picky because there's a lot of guys out there doing what we do, and I think you're very good at it. And I wanted to have you on the show because I think, like, today, YouTube, people don't know what sells anymore. The industry, music industry, has its head so far up its own ass. They try to push all this music, and the rest of us are like, let's go on YouTube and find real music.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try to find something. And so we become our own entertainers.
Right.
We've taken the business away from the people who supposedly know something about the business.
And isn't that really stupid of them to have done that? To basically say, "Oh, we don't know what we're doing. We're just going to cater to like the 14-year-old girls." Which they've always kind of done that. Even going back into the bubblegum 60s, pop era. Sure. 50s, and they've always kind of done that and catered their mainstream stuff toward that market group. But now, even more than ever, man, you turn on the radio and it's like and it's like it all sounds exactly the same. And then the country station, that's more powerful than anything else around here.
Yeah, not here.
Like you get anywhere near it on the dial, and it's like it's already in.
Right.
And it's like I'm now grown with my tractor, and they're all just putting it on. You know what I mean? It's like fake, just so fake.
It really is.
So
I miss the old country of like George Jones and all that stuff. That stuff was good.
Yeah. I mean, you listen to it now, and it's like it sounds more immediate and relevant than ever. Like if you actually go and listen to some of that older stuff, and it's like, man, and I understand country now, like because I had to listen to this shit for so long. It's like, and you go back and listen to real country, and it's like, I had no idea how good I had it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I love watching all the old hee haw with Don Rich and Buck Owens. Those guys were fantastic. And then
Don Rich is great.
It's fantastic. And then there's another show called the Wilton Brothers. Remember the Wilton Brothers?
No, I don't remember that.
Trouble. So they had a show, and you can see it on like cable. I think it's on. They used to call it RFD TV, but now it's called like Country something. But the Wiltons they partnered with Loretta Lynn. And they had this show where they would have guests come on, and you can YouTube. There's a great Barbara Mandrell playing pedal steel.
She's awesome.
And that's from the Wilton Brothers show where that clip is.
Okay.
It was great. That stuff's great.
Man, she could play anything too. I believe she would jump on drums or just about anything, I believe, if I remember correctly with her. She was killer.
Yeah. And then by the late 70s, when they thought she was sellable as a sex artist, they, like trying to sell her. Then it was like sleeping single in a double bed. And that song is like painful. It's like, this girl can play. What are we doing here? Yeah. It's awful. So where did you start? When did you start this amplifier thing? And when did you start playing guitar? How did this all come to be?
I started playing guitar when I was I think I got my first guitar like right before my 14th birthday. So I was still 13 and I got it right before that. And it was a cheap, crappy thing, and I would take it and just bang around on it basically. I think like the first week I got my first guitar, me and a friend, we actually started recording. It's like immediately. That was, it's like, you fuck learning how to do it. Let's just record. So we would make up these stupid ass songs. And actually, I still have the tape of that. And one day I should release that because
absolutely.
It is hilarious. I listen to it now and we're just screaming and beating in the garage. I don't know what the neighbors must have thought, because we're just going, all night. And so, yeah, that's when I started. And I don't know, man. I think I got my first band within about a year or something like that, friends from school. So, but yeah, I've been playing for 20, how old am I? 42. So you do the math. I grew up in Western Kentucky and there wasn't a whole lot to do, honestly. I mean, if you were a kid at that time, especially before the internet, there was not much to do except for drugs,
Right.
Go out in the cornfield and get drunk or something, or, whatever. So I would be the one, and a few friends too. You had the small group of friends who also played. So you had that kind of identity, I guess. You
were hanging out with Malachi and Mr. Joshua out in the cornfields.
Actually, we did have a small Amish sect that lived down near where I grew up, so that we did have that.
Oh, really? No, I was doing Children of the Corn. You remember
joking aside, we actually did. Yeah, we actually did have Amish, but yeah, man. I don't. It's always been to me like just an escape. As far as the electronic stuff, that came later. My mom married my stepdad about the mid '90s, and he is an electronics engineer. So I'd kind of peek over his shoulder and pick up how to solder and stuff because I'd never done any of that. My real dad is he's disabled. He was disabled in a horse accident in the early '80s. So he's like, he can move around and stuff fine, but he's like kind of not all there all the time. He forgets things, and so he's been unable to work pretty much since then. So I didn't learn a lot of like really marketable skills from my real dad, right. And so it's more like looking over my stepdad's shoulder and trying to pick up on things that he would do. And he would build computers and tear things apart. And, actually, instead of going and buying a pedal or something, he would make one like a switch or something. And so I'd learn like, oh, okay, I see what he's done there. That's how that works. And you'd pick up on things, and that kind of led into more reading on it later on. And here more recently, I mean, I haven't been doing real deep dives into amps and stuff beyond like the last 6 years, maybe 7 years at the most. So and I didn't start filming that stuff until what, like 3 years ago, maybe. I don't
Yeah, I mean,
remember.
there's a level of expertise. I mean, you understand what capacitors do, what resistors do,
Yeah, I mean, it's
beyond what I know, which is resistors resist.
right.
That's
They
about
do
it.
resist.
That's
They're
all
very
I
resist.
know. That's as far as mine goes.
Well, if you wanted to start from the beginning, I would definitely recommend some books. I put book recommendations in all the descriptions of my videos and stuff like that. Like if you really
Yeah,
want to start, getting into it beyond entertainment,
right.
watching somebody else. And also Uncle Doug. There's a really good channel called Uncle
I
Doug.
love
He
Uncle Doug.
does, yeah, he does great work. I learned a lot from him.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Oh
Because
yeah,
I think
yeah, I've
he's
learned a
really
lot from him.
good.
He is. He's really good at explaining. And some of the videos that he does, where he really breaks down, and explains, um, what phase inverters are and what
Right.
how they work and all, just
Yes.
on one little topic of inside the amp. He's very good at that, breaking things
Yeah.
down in a. It's technical, but it's also presented in a way that your high school teacher might have presented it. So, so it's easy.
The thing about him is he's so corny
Yeah.
that it becomes enjoyable to watch. Like there's something about him that you're like, this is actually enjoyable. I like this guy. He's funny, but he knows it's goofy. He always talks to the dog,
Yeah. Yeah.
hey, and the cat. And I just find that there's something endearing about him that I like in that respect. Because there's some people out there who have videos, and the second they start talking, I'm like, this guy should be marketing his channel for insomniacs because I'm ready to nod off.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What was your first electric guitar?
I think it was a Dixon, so it was like a Strat knockoff. And then my second guitar was a Rhodes V Charvel. It was like
Wow.
the
What was
whatever
it?
the
The Jackson one, or the
Jackson Charvel. It was a
yeah,
Charvel,
right.
import. But it was the red Rhodes V, and it had crappiest pickups ever. So and you couldn't change them either. Like it had a humbucker, which was like actually two single coils put side by side,
Right.
and then it had a single coil in the neck. Which, I mean, today for me would have been okay, but back then all I wanted to do was like Metallica. So it was
Right.
like, man, this doesn't sound right. It looks the part, but it doesn't quite sound right.
Yeah.
And the problem was you couldn't change out the humbucker because the way it was routed for two singles. So
That's so weird.
it was so weird. Like if you go back and look at that model, it's just, I don't know.
And so
I
you're
guess
playing these guitars, you're playing these two guitars, and you had what for an amp?
let me think. Okay, so early on I had what did I have? I had a Gorilla. You remember
Oh,
those
I
Gorilla
do
amps?
remember those.
I had a Gorilla, and then a little bit later I bought another better setup that was some kind of Ampeg, and I wish I could find out what that was because that it had the coolest chorus effect I've ever heard on an amp. Like
Oh,
it had just
really?
really nice chorus, really lush, awesome clean tones.
And that was a solid state amp too, wasn't it?
I
Because I
think that
think
one,
those
yeah,
Ampegs with the choruses were
that
pretty
one
like,
would have been solid state. I'm pretty
yeah,
positive. But to me at the time, it just sounded, and probably maybe even now, I would think, man, that thing doesn't sound as good as I remember. But at the time, it just sounded really good. But those are my two early amps that I had that I can
yeah.
remember.
It's funny because when you think about what we had as kids growing up, and then you look at what kids are playing today, and it's like today, I mean, these modeling amps can sound fantastic, and then
Yeah,
we're playing amps that it's like, how's the distortion? You know,
really bad.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I had a PV Bandit. That was my first amp, a Bandit 65, and it's like, you fought your way through it.
yeah, I had my share of PVs too.
Yeah,
I mean, growing up in the South, that's like, that's about all you would see. Most of your friends would have
yeah.
PVs. Oh, and
So,
another one I had was a Woodson. Have you ever heard of Woodson? That was
no,
a weird 70s. I think they were I think they were based in Kansas or something like that. And they made PAs, and it was just a really funky, it was like 212s, and it was kind of trying to be a twin, but it was
right.
solid state. And I think it might have had tube output, but just nothing but clean. So like, if you're trying to rock with your friends, like you turn it all the way up, it's like, damn, this thing's you're sounding like Chet Atkins trying to play, trying to play Slayer or something,
Right. No breakup at all.
Yeah, exactly. So then you had to get a pedal, and
Right.
you'd always get like a crappy DOD. What was
Yeah.
the yellow DOD overdrive? Which one was that? It
Preamp
was
250. No, yeah, the
maybe
preamp 250. Yeah, that was
is
it.
that what I'm not a huge pedal guy, so I don't remember. But
The OD
yeah,
50. Yeah.
that's what I had, like that and that Woodson amp for a little while, and trying to play like heavy
Hilarious.
metal. So it
The
wasn't
funny thing is
working out.
that preamp OD, I think that DOD was what like Ingve used to use in front of his Marshalls.
Really?
That put it over to as like a treble boost or like as
Right.
a push. And in that capacity, those pedals were great, but on a clean amp, you're
On a
pushing
clean solid state amp too. Yeah.
you're not getting the sound you're looking
Yeah.
for. That's
Yeah.
for sure. So when did you start? So you were playing guitar. You obviously well, maybe not to everybody, but to me it seems like you have music store experience as an employee.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
I think I started around 2007, if I remember correctly. I was only there for about 3 years, but I mean, 3 years seems like forever when you're younger,
Yeah. And
Um,
this was a store out there.
yeah, this was in Evansville, Indiana.
Okay.
I ended up when I left, I ended up being the manager of the store, and so I kind of managed the store through the first owner who owned it when I got there. He had bought it off of another guy, and he really didn't run it very well. I mean, by the time I got there, it was actually already kind of on the downslide because he had kind of let it go and just wasn't. He was kind of a scatterbrained sort of a guy. He was more
Yeah.
artist than he was businessman, kind of.
Right.
And he was also an engineer. So I mean, like electronics, he was genius at what he did well. But running a store was not one of those things.
Yeah.
So it was kind of up to the employees to keep the thing afloat. Like any imagination that we had to make things better, it's like we were encouraged to
Yeah.
implement because he wasn't gonna do it,
Right.
So I started buying and selling stuff whenever. Well, actually, let me fast forward a bit. He sold the store back to the guy who he bought it from because he was going bankrupt. And then the
Right.
guy who came back, he made a deal with me because I had already been buying and selling things on the side and kind of consigning them in the store because we didn't have anything. There was nothing in there. So this is actually where I developed a lot of skills too, because anytime you buy something, if it's got any problems, you're going to have to fix it all before you can sell it. So that's where I developed a lot of skills. So I can trying to figure things out. Was doing that, buying things, fixing them, and then selling them in the store on consignment. And when the guy came back in who owned the store before, we made a deal that, okay, I could keep just doing that. And after a while, after about 2 or 3 years, I actually had become manager of the store also. And I owned like half the store because it was the crash. The market crash was around that same time. So everybody was coming in to sell their stuff.
Right.
So, and everybody also was looking for used stuff. They weren't coming in to buy like the latest, greatest thing. They were looking for, I just need something to knock around. I don't want to spend a lot of money. So it was like, that's where the market was. And he kind of missed the boat on that. And I think he knew it. So at one point he kind of came back and wanted to renege on our deal that we had, because we had already set terms and set percentages and like what he would get and the store would get and stuff. And he wanted to renege on that at a point, and it was like, no, I don't think so. So like, we're gonna have to part ways then. So that's how that went down.
I managed a place called West LA Music out in Los Angeles. I managed it from 2006 to 2010. It was a good store. Nothing like that. We had a ton of inventory. We were like one of the biggest shops. In fact, I had told you before, Mark Agnesi had worked at the company. He was at the Universal store. He was the manager of the guitar department. And I don't know if you're familiar with my guitar talk, but John was the manager of the guitar department at my store, and I was the store manager. It really gives you that's what I said. I knew you had that savvy just from the way you talk about stuff. And I've seen your video about the industry, about Guitar Center, about Gibson, that I know you have an inside feel of that.
And that's the thing. The reason I harp on Gibson so much, and a lot of people kind of give me shit for it, and maybe it's fair. Maybe it's fair that they give me shit for being so hard on Gibson. Maybe I should be a little bit more forgiving. But the thing that really set me against Gibson a long time ago was just I realized how hard it was to get them in a store that was like a mom and pop type store. Like, even if you really wanted to work with them and really wanted to take thin margins, I mean, just to have something to sell, there was no way you could get them. And it was like, okay, so let me get this straight. You're gonna basically go into just the largest fucking chains big box store in town, driving all of us out of business and not caring, So,
Right.
And why should I care about your brand if that's where you are? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Screw you. That's that's kind of the way I've always looked at Gibson now.
They had a bottom line, and you needed X amount to buy in, and it's not obtainable for a lot of people.
Right. Oh, it was completely and it was pie in the sky wishful thinking. Now, when I first came in the store, and that first guy, he was it was on the downslide. Now I can understand that, because it was like,
Sure.
We didn't have any money, and we weren't trying to get them then either. Anyway,
Right.
But when the other guy came back, he had a bit of money and he could put some things in there, and we looked into it kind of again, and he was like, I've had them before and it wasn't a good experience, and it was years ago, and like it ended badly, and he was against even approaching them. But we kind of called around and tried to see what their terms were and everything. It was like, whoa, you're insane.
How about the amount of Epiphone they want you to carry is just insane.
Yeah. It was like, we can't sell that in 3. Yeah, we can't sell that in 3 years. It's like, you really don't understand the local market.
Right.
You're only making it feasible for like a Guitar Center who has multiple locations and can ship stuff, can buy a big quantity and then ship stuff out to their stores. That's the only people carry stuff like that.
This was my issue that I had. So way back when, I used to work for a company called RKS. I don't know if you remember RKS guitars. They were these weird looking guitars. And I went in and said, basically it was a peripheral style guitar, but running a small store like you're running, I said, a company needs to come out with a Gibson style instrument and sell them at a better price, make the terms, because Gibson's the easiest company in the world to compete against, because they're so big, they don't want to deal with the millions of small. But somebody that would take the time to go deal with the millions of small, give them better terms, not try to, you could easily compete. And all these knockoff guitar companies all want to compete with Fender. And it doesn't make any sense to me. Because Fender's easy to get. I mean, you want a Fender, you can get Fender if you...
There was a small mom and pop company that was they were designing and importing their own instruments from China, and they were in Indiana, so they weren't that far away. Evansville is in southern Indiana, and they were kind of up in the middle of Indiana, and they were called Austin, I think was the name of that guitar company, and they did that. They did like some really inexpensive. I mean, I'm talking like $150 to $200 range Les Pauls that were like neck through, nice finishes. Like not crappy finishes either, not like slathered on poly, you know, crappy, but actually nice. Yeah. And for what they were able to produce and bring in the country for like that kind of price range was just unbelievable. But the company that really stood out as far as wanting to work with you and like being cool for a small company was ESP, as far as I was concerned. They were really good about staying on top of their sales and stuff. Like their salesman, Dave Batson was the rep at that time, and he would come around really regularly. So he would, they were just really on it.
Was he a captured rep, or was he his own firm? Do you know? I
think he repped it for other things too. But I'm not sure. So, I'm not sure what all he had under his belt, but he did ESP. But a lot of reps are like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, when you deal with like Fender and Gibson, you're dealing with captured reps. These guys worked solely for that company. And then
I misunderstood your question. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, then you have your independents, and you have guys who will carry 5 or 6 brands, and he'll rep like like G&L, a guy will carry G&L, maybe ESP, as long as they don't and then he'll do like Spectraflex cables or Dean
Right.
guitars or yeah.
Usually they'll have like the reps, they'll have like one guitar and they might have like a strap company
Yeah,
and some accessories and like,
Yep.
and then they'll have
Exactly.
their boards, their
Yeah.
mixing boards and stuff that
Yeah.
they'll do. And yeah, but the
Maybe
real
an
thing
amplifier company.
the real lesson I think I took from managing a music store was be very careful about what technologies you hang your hat on. You know what I mean? Like what newfangled thing is the latest and greatest, because
Yes.
you're going to find out really fucking quick that latest and greatest is going to be obsolete in 6 months when they come out with a new operating system that you have to plug this thing into your computer and they no longer support it. And then it's, all this stuff really quickly goes down the tubes. Like I got an email from some guy the other day, or not the other day, it was actually earlier tonight. And he was talking about Fender Fuse. And they've shut down Fender Fuse now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
Well, they didn't shut it down. They're no longer supporting it.
No longer supporting it. Right.
But I mean, I don't know what they've done to it. I use Fender Fuse when I record my stuff, but they don't.
No, he was saying that like they had a website, I guess, where it was like a forum or something.
Yeah.
And I've never used it, but apparently a lot of people did, and they would do their own presets for like the Mustangs and things.
So you can exchange presets on that forum, and so Fender's no longer going to be involved with that. But that doesn't mean that somebody.
I think they actually deleted it all. He was telling me that they.
Right, it's gone. Right, yeah, they wiped it.
Okay,
but that doesn't mean that somebody else couldn't start a site. Because, I mean, as far as the software goes, Fender Fuse is real basic. When someone told me, they were like, oh my God, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to keep using it. And Fender hasn't updated it for me in over a year or whatever. And I mean, I make up my own sounds. Basically, what I try to do is if I'm doing a solo, I'll try to make it sound like the record. I'll use Fender Fuse and dial it in and save the preset, and I'd save somewhere on my hard drive.
Right,
but I've never gone to there because Line 6 started that whole business with the flex tones, and you could go to a website and trade sounds. And I don't know. Yeah. What you end up doing is you end up trading sounds with someone who thinks like, oh man, I dialed in David Gilmour's sound. Then I download it and I'm like, yeah, you didn't. And I wasted time.
This is more like David Gilmeister sound. Whoever he was.
Right. I used to have a little guy who says to me, oh man, I think I'm a cross of Beck and Page. I said, really? Tom Beck and Fred Page?
Or Beck Hansen, just regular Beck. Yeah.
Phil Page. Oh, I sound just like Page. You're right, Phil Page. Oh boy. So I know you got a hard time and you were hard on Mark Agnesi. And Mark and I go back quite a bit working at West LA Music. And I don't, everyone that says, you were too hard on him, or I don't think so, because I know Mark, so I don't think you were trying to be personal to him. But I think it is a big mistake if somebody were to hand me copy that I'm supposed to read and then someone's going to film, and in that copy, I am just egging people on.
Yeah.
And telling them facts that are not facts, like don't cover the headstock. That doesn't protect your copyright. When that's not to protect the copyright. That's because you're not paying the filmmaker and he doesn't want to show your name. Right. But the second you buy that guitar, you own that copyright. You can use it in any film you want. You can
carry it outside in public, and people have a right to film in public. So what's going to happen if somebody films you? Are you going to sue the person that was filming in public and it's absolute madness and stupidity. And yeah, I have nothing against, I've never met Mark, I've never met the guy, and maybe I've been hard on him, but I see it as kind of like a public figure sort of a thing, because he's the face of Gibson. So it's like, he's going to take most of the slings and arrows as kind of the face of Gibson. So I'm sure he knew that, going in, that I'm the face of the companies, and it comes with advantages also, and it's going to come with some disadvantages. So people are going to blame him when stuff goes wrong, for better or worse. And I thought that was just crazy that Caesar allowed him to take the blame for all of that for so long, without coming on and The thing to do would have been for Caesar to come on and make his own video first of all,
Right.
not have Mark do it for him. If that's the message he wanted to send, he should have sent that message.
If that's what happened, I mean,
Well, that's what Caesar said, and
I know he said it. He said it 6 months or so after the fact. To me, it sounds like that was what he said after somebody had a meeting, and was like, "How are we gonna? What are we doing for control here?" Like, you know what I mean? It's like that. It doesn't. I don't know if that's what happened and who made it. Maybe James Curley made it because maybe I don't know.
Somebody had a meeting. Somebody had a meeting somewhere along the line and signed off on that and said, "Hey, we need to do something to send a message and blah blah blah. How are we going to send this message? Well, maybe Mark should do a video." And it's like more people than one had to sign off on that.
I agree.
So
that I can agree with 100%.
So Mark doesn't take all of the blame there, I don't think, by any means. But he was the guy whose face it was, and he was the guy who ended up looking like the jackass. And you know.
Yeah, no, but I think he understood that and took that and I think I think they walked away from it for a while, pulled all their videos down, and now they're doing like where they're going to people's houses. I saw him go to Brian Ray, is that his name, that plays for McCartney?
Yeah. There's been a couple of them.
This guy's been with. These guys been with him for a lot of years. Oh, he's done a couple of videos, for sure.
Like that, going to see, and those are interesting. I mean, if you like seeing, what's this dude going to pull out of, what kind of stash does he have?
How do you feel about those? Because I'm just curious, not those videos in particular, but about vintage gear in general. Are you
there's something about picking up a well-worn guitar for me that's like had a history that kind of does speak to me. Like, so I get it. I get the je ne sais quoi of, a certain instrument has, or like a soul, that resides in something.
Could somebody get my French to English dictionary up? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, when you open up like a vintage case and it's like, it's like something that has clearly a history, there's something to it. And then and on necks particularly, like if you pick up an old Fender neck, like, and you could just feel like where the finish has been rubbed off, like from years and years of somebody just playing the hell out of the thing.
Maybe. I'm saying, do you think you could tell if I handed you if I had the custom shop make an exact replica using the 7 1/4 radius, do you think people could tell the difference between a real vintage?
Yes, I can. Yeah, because there's always little tells.
Well, I mean, if you closed your eyes, you're not examining it like Ellery Queen, but basically,
if you close your eyes and play, then yeah probably not. Like I'm sure you could fool a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, you can look to see if the machine, like you could tell to see certain tells, but I'm saying in general, because to me, I understand what you're saying, but now would you pay a premium for it?
It depends on, I think it would depend. Well, it's kind of like, what do you pay for a gold coin that's like this big? You know what I mean? It's like, if it's an ounce of gold, it's what, $1,700 or something right now. So it's like, are you going to sink $1,700 worth of labor into some little thing that's like this, that's just going to sit on a shelf or sit in a vault? You know what I mean?
But it'll only go up in value. A gold coin, though, is actually worth that price.
Well,
whereas a guitar price, a vintage guitar price, is a fictitious price that's based on the perceived value at that time.
That's true, but it's all fictitious in a way, because you're also talking about limited supply. So if you have the demand, you have to make sure the demand's going to be there. Like if we had a generation of players now, between the ages of maybe 30 and 50, that were going to be buying vintage instruments for the next 20, 25 years, then yes, you could reasonably say the prices will remain stable or go up for the foreseeable, next 20 years or next generation. But now you've got all these, most new players are kind of eschewing the vintage thing, it seems, and at least the high end vintage, they're not going toward the 50s Les Pauls, and so I see those prices coming down. Those are going to crash when the boomers die off. Those prices will probably crash
Yeah, I've
down to
seen them
reality.
come down a little bit, but yeah, it's insane to think a guitar is $200,000 to $500,000 for a. I mean, I think it's nuts. To me, I would much rather. It's like if you were if I said to you, "Hey, Brad, I need you to work on this amplifier, but look what I've got. I've got a soldering iron that barely works from 1902." You'd be like, yeah, I think I'm going to use my whatever you have, that's the best tool. You want to use the best tool you got in your box.
Right.
So to me, it's like I just think that the more, I think you make a point. The more young players come up, the more they're kind of like, I like a flatter radius. I'd rather have a new guitar.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. It's like most of these really high-end, expensive vintage instruments, people don't take them out to play with them because it's a liability. you can't take a $30,000 50 Strat on a gig you're only going to get paid $300 for. It makes no economic sense, so you don't do it, and then it just ends up sitting in the man cave. And the only time you even show it to people is if you put it online. So I think that's a lot of why people do this on YouTube, is because they want to show off the shit that they have. They want to have some outlet for that,
otherwise there's no way these amps are ever going to get seen, because I would never take these out on a road.
You never take them out on a gig. I've got one the same size, same thing right over there.
Well, to tell you the truth, these I bought them up on Craigslist. The price was so low, and I would never play them. I'm not even a Marshall fan, but I will sell them when the price goes up.
Yeah, if it goes up. Well, the problem, and this goes back to modern versus vintage, like that JCM 2000 head behind you. There's a good chance that it might have the board in it that becomes conductive, so the whole motherboard eventually will peter out on that thing, and then you'll be screwed. The board itself will be conductive.
I think they had two problems with their. One of them was the board, and the other one was the transformer. In the 2000s also.
I think they had problems with transformers too.
That one has the transformer and had had a guy go through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a DSL 50. Great amp. Sounds fantastic. When did I play it? The day I bought
it. That one's the 50 watt though?
That is a 50 watt.
Yeah, that's sensible. See, that 100 watt Marshalls, man. What are you going to do with 100 watts? Where are you ever going to play a 100 watt Marshall?
On the West Coast, I used to play the 100 watt dual rectifier all the time. That was like my go-to.
Mm-hmm.
In Massachusetts, you can't play it. I'd have to go play the Foxborough Stadium. But this Marshall, the one on top's a 900, 100 watt 900.
That's a 9? Oh, okay. I thought it was a. Okay.
The bottom one's a 2050 watt, and the top one is 100 watt 2100. Mach 3.
Yeah.
Which
does that one have the reverb?
No reverb.
Okay.
No reverb. It's the one that's basically like a 2203, but it has that the clipping diode on
the diodes on the input. Yeah.
Right. Well, on it's a separate switch. It's not on the input. It's on it's a separate second gain switch. So you can take it out of the circuit, which is the reason why I liked it, because the original 2203s were called the Mach 2s.
Right. Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah, the Mach 2.
The Mach 3 was like the modern version, which added a clipping diode if you wanted it. And then they stopped making them in like 93, I want to say, and they went to the dual reverbs, the 4100s and the 4500s.
Right.
Yeah. And then I even have a 900 combo over here, a 2501 50 watt. If you can see that one.
So you're really into the 80s tone, that high gain.
No. I don't play those. My Hot Rod Deluxe is the amp I play the most.
Do you ever go to the Ultra channel on the Hot Rod Deluxe?
I use the clean channel only.
Yeah, that's the only one that sounds good.
Kidding me? In fact, lately I've been taking a night train, the Vox night train, out to gigs because it's the lightest and easiest for me to go. And I just play it clean. I bring a little pedal board. I have the Duelist pedal. Have you tried that pedal yet? The King Tone Duelist.
I'm not a pedal guy. Everybody tries to talk to me about pedals, and I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's just great for that sound. But yeah, no, I mean, it's like, and I have a crank. I have a 100-watt crank over there. You can't see it behind that fan. The it's the Revolution One Plus, and again, that was someone was selling it. And I was like, I'll hold on to it.
Yeah, that's the first one I would sell out of what you have there, I think.
But it's actually a great amp.
Really?
When we ran the store, we had one and we had a Krankenstein, and the Krankenstein was the dime bag amp, and it's one of the worst sounding amps I've ever heard. I mean, it's like a tube amp that sounds like it's a solid state. It's rotten.
Yeah.
And then this Revolution Plus was like the gain was really light. It's just a nice amp. It's like I'd call it like a sleeper that if you see it out there and someone's selling it, they'll sell it for cheap, and it's a
Okay.
really great amp. Yeah. And then underneath that, I have an EVH cab, a 2x12 cab. That's what's holding that head up. But yeah,
Yeah,
otherwise,
there's so much good stuff out there, man, that it gets a bad rap because of the badge that's on it, I mean, and it's hard to come back from that, if you have taught a generation of people that your brand means this,
Oh, yeah.
it's hard to reteach them that no, actually it can mean this also,
When the guy sold it to me, I bought it off Craigslist. When the guy sold it to me, he's like, "Here, let me give you a pedal to plug in." I said, "What?" He goes, "I don't think the amp has enough gain." I said, "I think it's fine." I had the gain on like 3, and I'm like, "It's still too much."
Yeah, and he wanted to
was like-
play. He wanted to pump a pedal through it. That's just a matter of taste.
I like even when I played my dual rectifier, I never put the gain was always at probably like 40%.
Yeah.
That's where I like it.
Have you had good luck with the dual rectifier
I love it.
with yours? Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I will never buy another Mesa Boogie.
Well, I saw you working on one, and I was like,
You know what? And we actually were a dealer for Mesa Boogie when I managed that store. Yes, we were a dealer the whole time too. Even through the bad times, they didn't drop us or anything. It's like, luckily,
Right.
I don't know how, because we weren't really ordering as steadily as we should have been. But yeah, we managed to maintain the brand through the whole time I was there. And we even had them come in and do some demos and stuff. Like Andy Timmons came and like, did a what am I trying to say? Clinic. Yeah, there you go. And so yeah, we had a pretty good relationship with Boogie. And anytime, and I will give them this, anytime there was ever a problem, they always were there to offer a solution, and most of the time it was, okay, well, send it to this guy in town who is a authorized rep or authorized service guy,
right.
or ship it back to us, and our engineers will try to figure out what it is that's causing it to do that. There was one time though where we had a guy who was a really big player in town, whose bass amp went down, and it was brand new. It was like when they came out with I forget the name of the Titan. It was a bass Titan model, something like that. And it was just a brand new amp at the time. And so I guess they were still working out some bugs, but they released it onto the public. And this thing, it just went down on him every single time he tried to play out, every time. Wow. And it would work fine in the store. We would play it for half an hour in the store, and he would come in and we would sit together after getting it back, from being repaired. We'd sit together. All right, let's make sure this thing works now, and he would take it back. And sure enough, at second hour of him jamming, every time it would just go down. Something would go down. And we ended up shipping it back to Mesa, and they sat on it for months and months and months. And it was like, what? And the dude was like, as you would be, he's like, where's my amp? But I bought like, this thing was like $3,000,
Yeah, they should have sent him another one.
And that's what I told him. And they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't send him another one. They wouldn't replace it with another amp. They were just trying to fix his amp. And I was like, if you guys are trying to like do research and development, do that on your time. Don't cost me a customer because you want to figure out what it is. I understand if you want to figure out what it is, like do that, but send him a new amp. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was just that ordeal kind of soured me a little bit toward them. And then later on, when I started doing more repairs and really got a couple of their amps that I was looking at, I was like, man, this design is just setting yourself up for failure. And in the middle of a set, If this goes out, there's so much in it to go wrong, especially like when you get into the roadsters and stuff. There's
Yeah,
so much tech that's crammed into one of those, man. And there's so much that can go wrong, and there's so much heat because of the tubes. Like, it's different when it's solid state and you've got all the modeling stuff or whatever.
sure.
It's a little bit different because everything's
Yeah,
low temp,
right.
for the most part. So as long as it's there and it's stable and it's cool, it's probably not going to go down on you. But man, when you start mixing in heat from tubes with all that stuff, and you've got all the switching is with transistors, and it's any one little thing and you're down.
Yeah.
So
Well, this dual rectifier I got it brand new at the Mesa store in Hollywood, and I played everywhere around with it, all around the
Yeah.
country, and it's been killer. And then I found a guy selling this one, the single rectifier, and I saw it on Craigslist at a low price. And I offered him lower, and he took it.
yeah,
And so I'm like, "What's up with it?" And the guy tells me it's been in my basement. I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be work. I'm sure it's not gonna work great." Ended up taking it to my tech's house the day I picked it up, and he looked it through the back, and he was like, "Oh, was this in someone's basement?" He could see like the oxidant, on some of the stuff. He goes, "Give me like an hour." Cleaned everything. It worked perfect, and it's been working since. So
yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of times you'll get lucky, and the other thing about Mesa too, and some of these other companies, like on the modern amps, is they are really starting to be precious with their schematics. So, have you ever watched Louis Rossman, the guy who he goes after Apple computers? He repair.
oh,
Okay, check
no,
out
no,
his.
no, no. I think so.
Okay,
The guy
check out
who
his
hates,
channel. He's like a New York computer tech. Okay, and he'll
yeah,
go off on these rants about Apple computers for like a half an hour on how they're not supporting their stuff and how they,
right,
they would actually rather destroy your ability to use the product you've already bought so that you have to buy another one than to help you fix it. You know what I mean?
right,
So, and you
yeah,
take it into the Genius Bar and they don't know what the fuck they're doing and they don't have a clue. And, and he'll go off about them all day. But they're kind of the same way. And some of these amp companies, man, are just getting to the point where they're almost like Apple. They won't give you the schematics to repair the stuff unless you're like an authorized service tech of theirs.
right.
And and a lot of times the hoops you have to jump through to become authorized service tech of theirs is not feasible. It's like
Yeah.
Now,
Now,
so
have
they
you
don't.
thought about designing your own amp at all? Have you thought about that, or?
Well, I mean, I've done the thing about tube amps is that there's nothing really new under the sun in the world of tube amps for the
No.
most part. It's like, I mean, yeah, you can design some unique and novel switching,
Sure.
ideas and things like that. And there's different things, but for the most part, it's all been done before. And anybody who tells you any different is full of shit,
Right.
really. But yeah, for the most part, what I like to do is take something that's kind of old and neglected and abused or forgotten and kind of change it. I'll get stuff like this. You know what this is?
Looks like an old record player.
Yeah, something like that, but it's actually record players are less powerful usually on the
Ooh.
amplifiers than if you get I got this for $30. Okay, and it has a single ended. I think what's in this, let's see, what is in this? Okay, this has a 6BM8 output and a 12AX7 preamp. So this would be like very similar in both power output and probably tone at the end of the day to something like an old Champ.
Wow.
Like basically
Okay.
that's what you
So
have
like
set.
a 5 watts.
So yeah, and you can go in and you can redesign the preamp and you could, add a little, add
Right.
something here, add something there, take away some, and there's things that you could do to shape the tone through
Right.
that and change it from something that's supposed to be, hi-fi linear sound reproduction to something that would work really well with guitar. And, you can spend an afternoon doing that and
Yeah.
have, and the components are, I mean, it's the
Yeah.
same crap that would have been in all the 50s amplifiers. So it's like,
That's cool.
why would I spend many thousands of dollars or try to reinvent the wheel? You know what I mean?
Right.
When there's so much of that crap out there, it's like I could go right now on Craigslist and pick up one of those for $30,
Yeah.
and redesign it and probably sell it, but just because people, I'm a more or less a known commodity now. Like people have watched a lot of my videos. I get so many requests for people to do people's conversions of stuff like that. I could just sit and do that stuff all day if I wanted.
Right.
I mean, so to me, it's less appealing to do the design an amp and try to bring it to market thing.
Sure.
Because there's so much of that and the competition on that is so great.
But you probably have a pretty good built-in audience as you have, but
true. But I think there would be a ceiling on that. There's only so many people who would be able to, first of all, to afford something that I would have to charge. The amount I'd have to charge to do it. So I don't. What I'm trying to say is, I think that's more interesting to me.
Sure. No, I get it. Yeah. You gotta do what you enjoy to do.
Exactly. That would be more interesting, and I think it also is more sellable because I could do it at a price point where almost where your average guy could have it, and it would be, it'd be something interesting for them too. So
other than music stuff, what are you watching on YouTube? What do you watch when you go to watch?
I watch. There's this lady in England who does like mudlarking. So she'll walk along like the Thames foreshore and like pick up things that she finds. It's
really?
like it's almost like a treasure hunt. Like she'll go out walking. What's the name of her channel? Tideline Art. So I watch a lot of her stuff, and it's really relaxing. It's kind of zen-like because first of all, you can hear all the birds and stuff in the background. So it's like you're outside, even though you're sitting on your couch. So you're walking with her along the edge of the Thames, and who knows what the hell will wash up on the shore of the Thames,
Right.
And all kinds of, she finds all kinds of shit, and it is like a treasure hunt. I think that's why people too watch some of the videos I make about going to pawn shops and things.
Sure.
And,
Well, people are living vicariously through you,
exactly,
doing what they all kind of want to do, and
now it would be like an adventure and trying not to get a virus.
Yeah. There's a guy's channel who's a British guy, and I think he's in Ohio, but he does videos of the difference between America and in England, and he's real interesting because he's a British guy, and he's like, he goes over all the stuff that he had to get used to moving here and things that he missed and the differences in food. It's an interesting channel.
Yeah. I actually watch probably more stuff that's not guitar related, than I do actually guitar related stuff.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
But
well, I mean, it's enough. There's so many guys sitting there talking about like tone chasing, and it's just like, yeah, well, that tone doesn't sound so good to me. So I don't know. You better get your sneakers back on and get the hell out there and start tone chasing some more. It's like, I always say to people, you want to have the best tone, fucking take lessons. Play.
Yeah.
Play the fucking guitar. You should always take lessons. I don't care how good you get in your life. When I see a guy that's smoking, playing, I'm always like, dude, what do you charge for lessons? Let me take a couple. Yeah. I want to know. I want to know what the hell. That's the whole thing of what's great about guitar is you're always learning something. So it's like,
right.
But that's you want to hear the tone, because you're gonna listen to you take a guy like Alan Holdsworth. I mean, he's playing carving guitars, carving amps. I mean, as for all intents and purposes, everyone that's tone chasing should be saying that guy should sound like shit, but he sounds great because it doesn't matter what you play.
Well, I will say this about Alan Holdsworth. Technically, I think he's amazing. Obviously, he's Alan Holdsworth. But I've never thought Alan Holdsworth's tone was good. I've never liked it. Yeah,
but he plays good. But if you ever listen to the album None Too Soon, it's a sleeper of an album. It's his only real jazz album.
Okay.
Where he does Joe Henderson's Isotope. I mean, it's fantastic. It's called None Too Soon.
None Too Soon. Okay, I'll check that out.
It is like, if you don't like Alan because he's not real jazz, it's his real jazz album. He does Countdown from John Coltrane on that record.
Uh-huh.
What is the countdown? Oh, it's great. It's great. But I'm saying, like, who do you give me? What guitar player you like?
Oh God.
Just throw me one.
One guitar. God. Like it's weird because my tastes have changed so much over the years. When I was the stuff I liked when I was younger, I'd probably listen to now, and it wouldn't sound the
Sure.
same. But when I was growing up, I really liked Brad Gillis. I liked his playing a lot on.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is, if you took like, I mean, look what he's using and playing. I mean, you probably, if you played that rig, you'd be like, oh, this thing sounds like crap. But Brad makes it sound awesome, and Jeff Watson was fantastic too.
Mm-hmm.
I like that whole band. Their first 3 or 4 albums are great. What's the album with 4 in the Morning? It's the third album, right? They were great.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Band a lot.
But yeah,
So,
I always liked some of the techniques that he would pull off were really inventive. He was doing some different stuff.
And he pulled off playing Randy Rhoads shit for that tour.
That was
I mean, to me, that was like, wow, that was impressive. So 5 albums, you're going away. You're going to have 5 albums for the rest of your life.
Oh, don't do this.
Only 5.
Only 5.
5 albums for the rest of your life.
You couldn't have given me warning on this. Okay, well, one I would have to pick.
It could change tomorrow. That's the thing. It's 5 albums you would take today, right now.
Okay,
it could change tomorrow. Who knows?
Top of the list. Top of the list would be ELO's El Dorado, because that to me is the greatest. That is the greatest rock album ever recorded, as far as I'm concerned.
It's very
from start to finish. It's just it's.
You like
superb.
that better than a New World Record, huh?
Yes. Yeah, like it better than New World Record. I think it's a masterpiece. It's a fucking masterpiece, and it doesn't get the recognition that it deserves. Like Jeff Lynne doesn't. I don't think Jeff Lynne generally he gets the recognition that he deserves.
No, I think is El Dorado the second album or the third?
No, that would be the fourth, actually, because third was the third day was their third album.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, I love Jeff Lynne. In fact, I think I love A New World Record. I love the double album Out of the Blue, and I love Discovery there.
Mm-hmm.
And I like El Dorado. I don't love it, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to revisit it tonight because I want to see why you say it's so great. Because I will be honest, I haven't given. What's the big hit on that? Is that
Can't Get It Out of My Head?
Oh, right.
I
Okay.
Can't get it out of my head. But if you listen to the accompaniment on
what's that first line?
The strings.
Oh, night,
midnight on the water. Yeah.
I saw someone's daughter. No, it's a great tune. I love those chords.
And it's the way that the whole album too. He kind of was able to pull off. Like I said, I think we talked about this once before. He was able to pull off the thing that the Moody Blues were always trying to do, which was make a complete record that was like a classical piece of music from start to finish. And he, as far as I'm concerned, he's the only one who's ever really pulled it off to my satisfaction, like from start to finish.
Can't Get It Out of My Head. Is that the one that starts with the guitar?
No, that's on it.
Oh, no, is that Strange Magic?
Yes.
Is that the same album?
No. Strange Magic's on Discovery,
Fire on High album. No. It's the one with Fire on High.
Face the Music.
Face the Music. Thank you.
That's a great album too. But and actually, that's got more hits on it than El Dorado.
Right.
But if you listen to El Dorado, listen to it with headphones on and just kick back with no disturbances. And just listen.
No, I will. I totally will. And that intro to Strange Magic, though, always reminded me of, remember the Soundgarden? They did the song "The Day I Tried to Live."
Yeah.
And they do it like too long. They play that guitar intro too long. But that intro kind of was reminding me of like the heavy metal Strange Magic.
Interesting. But yeah, probably another album. Let's see. Let me think. Another album that I would take with me would be Jethro Tull. Oh Jesus, what's that?
Aqualung?
No, not Aqualung.
Not Aqualung. Thick as a brick.
No. Thick as a brick. Yes.
Really don't
Fucking
mind
genius.
if I sit there.
Fucking genius.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
That and that's another one too. I'm a real concept album kind of a guy. I'll put on
Sure.
an album and
Yeah,
listen to the
43
whole
minutes.
damn thing. Yeah, oh yeah.
That
It's
sucks.
like I'd much
So when
rather
I
do that.
When I do my acoustic gigs, I always tell people we have time for one more song, so sit back for 43 minutes of Thick as a Brick.
42 of which is going to be me soloing.
Oh, I love that song though. That's a great one. Okay, what else? That's 2.
That's 2. Let me think. Okay. All right. This one you probably didn't see coming.
I figure you for eclectic.
Yeah. Bell and Sebastian's Dear Catastrophe Waitress.
I don't figure you for something that would name an album I didn't know though. What the hell's it called?
Bell and Sebastian, Dear Catastrophe Waitress. It is from 2003. Bell and Sebastian is a Scottish band. They're very, very kind of poppy, very throwback to the 60s. They kind of take a lot of 60s influences and 70s influences and kind of meld them into different things. The singer has a real thin kind of almost nasally. I would classify it as a weak voice, but it fits what they do very well. And they have a female singer who does a great but that album in particular was Trevor Horn produced, and it is fucking fabulous.
You've never heard my rants, obviously, on Trevor Horn.
No, I guess not.
Oh,
you not like Trevor Horn?
Guy.
Really? Okay.
He used to come into my store.
Really?
And we definitely had a big clash moment when I had a guy who worked in my guitar shop. He was mainly an acoustic salesman, and he's a huge drama fan from Yes, when Trevor was the singer for Yes on that one album. And so Trevor Horn comes in. I said, "Hey, Trevor, Mark in there is a huge fan of yours from the Drama album. It's like his favorite." He was just like, "Yeah, that was a long time ago. I don't care." And I fucking blew up. I'm like, "What? Get the fuck!" I went off.
Wow.
The guy who was a salesman, I said, "Don't ever let him come in the store without you," but because we had 2 stores next to each other, there's a pro audio store and then a guitar drum. And I was like, "You are not to come into the store by yourself. Get the fuck out." I was pissed. Oh my God.
What did the guy just want to basically talk to him or say hi?
Just wanted to shake his hand and say hello. And he was just like, "Yeah, it was a long time ago." It's like, who gives? Could you imagine if you did something like that moves somebody to the point where to me, it's like, you know who else came in one time was Peter Gallagher. Do you remember Peter Gallagher, the actor?
Uh-huh.
He came in and I called him Cesare, which was his name in the movie The Idolmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And he lit up and was like, "You know that movie?" And I'm like, one of my all-time favorites. He grabbed a stool and sat up and we talked Idolmaker. We talked every movie he's ever done. The guy was the greatest guy, but thrilled that I knew an early work of his that I loved.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
Isn't that
makes
cool?
you feel good. And most people will like that. Trevor Horn, though, it wasn't his first time because I had talked to him once before and I didn't get the vibe that I liked, that he was like just a decent guy. He just comes across like an asshole. Anyways, I have nothing good to say, and I don't mind saying it on the internet. I think he's a complete asshole.
Now, in their defense, I will say, I can see where celebrity would get very draining after a while because, like, if that happens 2 or 3 times in a year, that's one thing. But if it happens like 2 or 3 times in the span of like 2 or 3 days,
nobody in that place knew who Trevor Horn was.
Well, no, I'm sure it doesn't happen to. Yeah, it doesn't happen to him. But like for some people, like a Tom Hanks level or something like that, you know what I mean? Like you go and like you have like 20 people wanting to talk about you.
Yeah,
that's
completely different. We're talking exactly. But when you have a guy who's like 99.9% of the population don't know who you are and don't give a shit. Most people might know you from singing "Video Killed the Radio Star,"
right?
But this guy is in love with could play on the acoustic guitar every fucking song on Drama.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, this kid was a great player and was loving.
That's how big of a fan he was. Yeah,
yeah, and it was just like he's also a huge early Genesis fan. This kid, he was wacky.
It would have made his fucking year, is what you're saying, and he basically spat it.
And that's what got me so angry because I'm like, this would mean so much to him. It means nothing to you, but
Yeah.
I would feign I mean, like, yeah, I don't know, whatever. But
You were
it's
sticking.
okay.
You were sticking up for your boys. What you were doing.
I was.
Yeah.
I had.
I can understand that.
I was. You know, it'd be like if, you know what I mean. Just imagine if you, you know, if you have a daughter, right?
I have 2. Yeah.
Okay, so if your daughter, like some celebrity, you went up and can she take a picture and the guy was rude to you about it in front of your daughter, you'd be like, that'd be the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That would be the
I
end
know.
of it because it's just uncalled for. It's like, not that this guy was my daughter, but he
I
was.
was gonna say you got a really weird relationship with your employees.
No, he was a good buddy of mine as well.
Yeah.
But the point was, I just didn't see it as being like, because in LA, it's like most people don't care. They don't like. They just they're not hounded. So when someone finds someone that like David Paymer used to come into my shop. Remember David Paymer? He was in the movie Quiz Show. He plays Dick Enright in Quiz Show. He's
Is he the main character in Quiz Show? Like the guy who frauds the
He's the one who has the game. He's the one who gets the Charles to lie on the show. Yeah.
So he's not Charles. He's not Charles's character. Okay. So
that's Ray Fiennes, I think, or Ralph.
That's
Fiennes.
right. Duh.
So David Paymer is the guy with the glasses who's like, do you want to get your own panel show? He was also in the movie The Payback with Gibson.
I could look him up. I know who you're talking about, but I can't picture him in my mind.
He comes in and I'm like, oh my God, David Paymer. I go, I just watched you last night on Quiz Show, one of my all-time favorite movies. He goes, I watch it every time it's on. I'm so thrilled. I go, you know, it's like most people, when you talk to them normally in the LA area, and you're not like, I wasn't starstruck by him, but I'm like, hey, I love that movie. They'll be honest with you. He's like, oh man, I love that. Anytime it's on, I watch it. Great guy. Love it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Trevor Horn, I could say, and that's the thing too. It's like, the older I get, the more I realize it's like some of my heroes are not, they're not angels, a lot of them too. Sure. Like, you have to kind of separate your love for the artistic side of a person, and the person itself sometimes, I mean, I don't know.
Especially when people start spewing their politics and your favorite artists come out and say stuff and you're like, yeah, I wish they never said anything ever again.
I know there are people who wish that I wouldn't say anything about politics half the time because, hey, I grew up in Western Kentucky, guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you try growing up in Western Kentucky,
sure.
on a farm and have a different set of politics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we all come from different places, and you got to kind of give. And the thing is, too, I can see somebody online. I could say I completely disagree with that shit. But if I were to meet him in person, we'd probably have a beer and it'd be fine. We might disagree for 2 seconds, and it's cool.
That's the whole
find something else to talk about.
That's the whole problem with today is people think arguing and disagreeing means anger, and it doesn't. Right. I love to argue with people. I mean, like, I'm ready to go song to song with you on El Dorado.
Hey, we can do that sometime.
Absolutely. I'm like, I love the debate. So, anyways,
that reminds me too. That was one of the disappointments. Like the Trevor Horn thing for you was a disappointment. I was watching. What was it? I was watching that Bruce Springsteen Netflix special he did where he was on Broadway thing. Uh-huh. I was really, really into it for the first 45 minutes. I was like, man, this dude he's tapping into something here, man. I was like, I even shed a couple tears in a couple spots. I was like, dude, this is moving. I was like, this is a great artist. And then like 45 minutes in, he went off on some political tangent. And I was like, God, why did you do that?
He's exactly who I was thinking of, by the way.
Yeah, I was like, you just blew it, dude. Why did you do that? Because you were really tapping into something like that could have been universal, and then you brought it back down to this bullshit level, and it was 100%. Like, God damn.
100%. And I was thinking of him when I think of like The River and what a great record The River is, and Darkness on the Edge of Town and Born to Run. Those records are fantastic. Mm-hmm. And then you hear him speak today, and I'm just like, that is not the same guy that wrote those songs to me.
Yeah. It was like a subcurrent of elitism or something in him. You know what I mean? Like
and they shouldn't be out there spewing it. I don't think so, anyways. But all right, so we've got
3,
the British
right?
Scottish band. We got ELO. I thought it was two. What was the third band?
That was Bell and Sebastian, Dear Catastrophe Waitress.
And the ELO album.
Oh, yeah, and you're talking Jethro Tull, Thick as a Brick.
Oh, Thick as a Brick, right? Okay.
Yeah. Let me think, man. God, there's so many. This is the thing. You start talking about great records and something you'd want to take to a desert island, or you'd want to take into quarantine. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes.
Because that's where we are right now. But I'm thinking about listening to an album from start to finish, not skipping, and
which we refer to on my channel as a perfect album.
A perfect album. Yeah, and it's like Nadia Comaneci's Perfect 10. You know, it's like
right.
it never comes up, or it comes once in a generation or something, and it's it's talked about. Man, but when I was growing up in the '90s, the one that really did it for me was Tool's Enema. I could listen to that album from start to finish, and to me it was a masterpiece because it was melding like a Pink Floyd kind of love for letting a song develop. You know what I mean? So the songs were like 9, 10, 11 minutes long. You know what I mean?
Is that the album that's after Undertow or
Yes,
several after?
That's the one right after Undertow.
Okay, because Undertow I really liked. And then I remember when that one came out, and I was like, I didn't give it a fair enough chance because I think I had my share of Maynard before that. Like I knew someone that played that album Undertow all the time. So I was like, all right.
Yeah, you can it can get old now, but back then when I was,
sure.
I don't know, 17, 18 years old, it was like I could listen to that album all day, every day, and did for like 2 years straight or something. So probably I would say that one deserves a spot in my heart, on the top five. And let me think, one more that I would take with me. Another one I can actually listen. I'll try to get more modern because
you don't have to.
It's easy to go back to your youth though, and you know what I mean, and try to pick stuff.
I think it's because a lot of records today aren't worth shit.
That's true.
You look at the charts. I was listening to America's to I'm Casey Kasem, and that person, and he's naming 10 songs, 20 songs, and I'm like, all these songs are fantastic. And then you listen to Top 40 today, and it's like, are you?
I don't know any of them, first of all, and they all sound the same.
Yeah, it's awful.
Literally. Yeah, really bad. And I think most of the stuff is actually written by the same 3 or 4 people. It's like it's that bad.
I got to tell you, I'm just listening to Sirius Satellite Yacht Rock.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've listened to Steely Dan Asia album about 100 times this week, just from listening to that channel. But okay, so
if you watch my stuff too, it's like I will go on sometimes about economics, because we manage the music store, and you kind of see an inside track on certain things economically, and I kind of am a buff anyway, more or less. So if I get off on an economic tangent, it's usually not because I'm being political. It's because I see something in the wider world that economics kind of affects everything, and it affects music for sure. It's like this move toward homogeneity, is just down to the fact that we don't buy music in the same bulk that we once did. So you can't market an album that's, even if it's great, even if it's like the best fucking thing you've ever heard, but you just, there's not any money left after promoting this thing over here to the 14-year-old girls, that they've heard 20,000 times. The market is what drives it all. And you could have this genius thing just collecting dust over here on the shelf while this other thing, goes ballistic and you can't stand it,
Years ago, they used to have like 2 or 3 really big artists on a label. They didn't have to put a lot of money in, but they generated a lot of money, and they would take that money and nurture other music that maybe
might pay off in 10 years. Yeah.
They developed artists, and that's how Journey got signed, and that's how, after Journey's third album, they approached them and said, listen, you guys, you need to get a singer. This isn't, you need a front man for this band. And that's when they ended up hiring Rob Fleischman and then firing him and bringing in Steve Perry. But yeah, they don't do that anymore. There's no developing. It's When you come on board, you better sell 100 million records, and if you don't, we are parting ways.
Yeah.
And it's bad. All right, so who's your fifth?
Yeah, man, I could go any number of directions. When I had a real folky strain when I was growing up, so I could go like Simon and Garfunkel, or I could go with like
Which album?
Leonard Cohen, or any kind of stuff like that. My favorite Simon and Garfunkel album is probably their first one, Wednesday Morning 3 a.m.
Really?
Because it's really stripped down, and it's actual folky, like before folk went folk rock.
Right. What was on that one?
Oh gosh. I can hear the soft breathing of the girl that I love
Oh, okay.
as she lies here beside me, asleep with the night. Then
I
it's
guess
all
I'm
like
cliche.
really
I think I'm a big Bridge Over Troubled Water fan with like trying to keep the customer
great album.
satisfied.
And that's a great album. And it's
Yeah,
Only Living Boy in New York.
Yeah.
God, what a great fucking song that is.
We cover that all the time. Yeah, Emily and I do that.
And here is my song for the asking.
Yeah.
Ask me and I will play. So sweetly I'll. It's just beautiful, man. It's absolutely beautiful.
And I love but I even prefer Paul Simon like solo, the Still Crazy album after all these years.
And like some of the stuff like Duncan, the song.
I love that. An American tune.
Yeah.
Lincoln Duncan is my name, right?
Yeah, that's such a great. I mean, hey, what a storyteller, And that's what I love. I love singer-songwriters. So I could totally go that direction with my fifth choice, But
There's
I wanted to kind of go.
Video you got to look up. It's Paul Simon on Dick Cavett, and he's playing acoustic guitar, and he says, "Here's a song I'm writing for my next album." And he's writing, "I met my old lover on the street last night," but he's playing it in D. And I found that interesting. Like he was writing it and the chord shapes were working in the key of D, but when the record came out, it's in G.
Wonder why he would have changed it. What other instrumentation's on there where he would have changed it, I wonder.
It's the Rhodes, and it was probably fit his voice.
Probably, yeah.
You know what I mean? When they went to the
Yeah, isn't that funny how that
singing it in D? It's really cool.
Yeah, that's interesting how that happens too sometimes, like when you get to the point of arranging something for an ensemble, it's like you'll say, okay, well, this is working better if we do it in this key.
He's also a very underrated guitar player. He's a fantastic player.
Huge influence on me. Probably like people who notice my finger picking and stuff.
Yeah,
he is why. He is why.
But he's also these beautiful chords and voicings. To me,
yeah.
When I try to talk about, like when I do my channel and teach songs, I'm always like, pay attention to the voicing. Listen to that record. Listen to that, like, because I broke down 50 Ways, and I never see anyone play it the way it sounds like on the record. Even when Paul plays it, he plays the acoustic, which is on the record how he plays it. But there's a doubling guitar on that record that's electric. And it plays like some really nice high jazz voicings. And I'm like, I'm really all about voicings, but I love the way Paul plays.
And also it has that kind of it's almost like a Leslie effect too on that other guitar part that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really not. Oh, it's just beautiful. They don't make stuff like that anymore, man. So I could totally pick something out of the 70s and be fine with that.
I think all my list would be the 70s.
Yeah. But have you actually sat down and listened to, let me think. Have you listened to The Suburbs, that album by Arcade Fire from 2010? No. I think they won a Grammy for that. They won Album of the Year. And that's very rare that I actually like an album that wins Grammy for Album of the Year. But that is a great album. That's another one I could put on from start to finish and skip nothing, because it's just a really personal kind of writing, like through this guy's memories of growing up in the suburbs and like all the things, like he remembers when long hair was important, right? And like and that was a part of your image and part of why you would have friends, and you would show your allegiance to one another in these ways, and it's just things that would ring a bell for a lot of us, from that kind of time frame,
And are they Canadian? Where are they from?
Yes, I think they're Canadian.
Now, are you an ethereal fan at all? Do you like ethereal music?
Well, it depends on what you mean by that. Like what?
Well, kind of like slower Peter Gabriel stuff.
I like Peter. The song I like most from Peter Gabriel. I never owned any albums of his, so I can't really speak to albums. But the song I like most of his is "Digging in the Dirt."
Oh,
I
great
loved
song.
that
I saw
trumpet
that
song.
too. Yeah.
Really?
So if you check out a band called the Blue Nile, they're a Scottish band. They're from Glasgow.
Hmm.
One of my probably my number one album of all time, Hats, is the name of the album. It's from 1989. But
Okay.
you should check it out. But it's ethereal. In other words, it's very melancholy.
Right. Oh, and dude, I like a lot of stuff like the Nick Drake.
Oh yeah, no,
All the
then you'll
stuff.
love it. You'll
Yeah.
love the Blue Nile because Paul
All that kind of
Buchanan is phenomenal. His
There is
voice
another-
is the greatest.
If you like, that kind of vibe, like the Scottish, Irish sort of vibe.
I'm a huge Cocteau
popular
Twins
music.
fan too.
Okay.
They're Scottish.
Check out there's a girl named Lisa Hannigan. She's got some really good stuff now. She's like she's
Really?
current. So check her out. She's like she's Irish, I think. But
Yeah.
but if you like that kind of stuff, like ethereal, whatever.
Yeah, I do love that. Like a Clannad. Remember Clannad?
I don't.
Clannad was the band. Enya was the sister of the singer for Clannad. It was a family
Okay.
band, and they did that song, Harry's song or something. Oh, it's gorgeous. Irish singing.
And this is the thing. How can somebody like Slayer and Enya? But that's me. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I'm a huge Megadeth and a Slipknot fan.
But I also love stuff like Enya, and I can sit down and listen to Leonard Cohen, and and just go a different direction. Yeah.
Well,
So,
if you look over here, I have two Marshall amps holding up two Devo
did
energy.
not notice the Devo hat. That's cool.
I'm a huge Devo fan. Huge.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, I have 9 years on you. But Devo came out in 78 and I was 10 years old and it was like made a huge impact because the only time I was listening at that time was Kiss. All right, so your last one, the fifth one was just a recap, was did we say it what it was? You said it
The
was going to be
Suburbs.
The Suburbs.
Yeah, just pick The Suburbs by Arcade Fire. Why not?
Okay. Something new.
Yeah, something new.
I'll have to give that a listen, but I really want to give to the listen I got to listen to El Dorado again.
Yeah, you do.
I'm missing something because I really love that album. You know what I got to do is I have it. I'll burn it, and then I'll throw it in my car, and that's the way it seeps in because that's how I got into a New World Record.
Yeah.
I left it in my car for like a week, and after a week, I'm like, this is their best album.
That is number 2 for me.
Yeah, it's a great album.
It is.
Hey, well, listen, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It was awesome. And we're going to have you back. I really enjoyed talking music with you. It seems like you know your stuff and always interesting. And I don't know if you've seen, I have a show called Overlooked Albums, where I talk about albums that I think are perfect albums that people don't even know about, or they could be big albums, but I don't think people consider them perfect records.
Right.
So the same type of thing where you don't skip over songs as you put that album on and you.
Maybe you can do one of my top 5 soon.
We'll see after I listen to El Dorado. All right,
Dave.
Thanks so much. All right, thanks so much, Brad.
Thanks, man.
Very, very good.
Don't let the sun catch you crying. The night's the time for all your tears. Your heart may be broken tonight, but tomorrow in the morning light, don't let the sun catch you crying.